Hello, my name is Marcus Chavez and I'm with Wafaa TV. Today we will be cablecasting segments of the press conferences that were held during the 22nd CROI, which is the annual conference on retroviruses and opportunistic infections, which took place in Seattle, Washington this year. This segment will be presented by Wafaa Sadr, who is with ICAP at the Columbia University in New York, New York. Wafaa talks about the feasibility and effectiveness of financial incentives to increase linkage to care and viral suppression.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. So HPTN 065 was a large-scale study that trying to assess the feasibility of a test linked to care and treat strategy in the United States. The component that I presented today involved two elements of the study, which was to assess the feasibility and the effectiveness of financial incentives to increase linkage to care and virus suppression. We focused on two large communities in the U.S., the Bronx in New York and Washington, D.C., two communities heavily affected with HIV. And the study included a large number of sites, HIV testing and care sites, about 80 in total, and aimed to, and what we did is we site randomized. This was a site randomized study where some of the test sites got financial incentives and others were randomized to standard of care, and we did the similar thing for the HIV care sites. Some offered financial incentives and the others offered standard of care. I'm not going to get into the actual mechanics of the financial incentives. Nonetheless, one unique aspect of the study is that we actually garnered the outcomes through the use of the U.S. HIV surveillance system. In sum, there were about 1,100 HIV diagnoses identified during the period of assessment in the study, and those were at the HIV testing site. And we had about 19,000 HIV patients in care that we assessed also as part of the study. What we found is for the linkage to care, we did not have sufficient power to detect an effect of financial incentives on linkage to care, meaning that there were too few numbers of HIV diagnoses per site versus what we had assumed when we designed the study. However, in terms of the viral suppression part, where we did have sufficient power, we saw a sustained increase in viral suppression at specific types of sites, at hospital-based clinics, at sites that had fewer numbers of patients, and at sites that had lower levels of viral suppression at baseline. We also looked at the peak of the intervention, when we had enough time to ramp up the financial incentives, have it in place at the sites. We were able to also examine the effect of financial incentives at that point in time, and we saw a significant effect on financial incentives on viral suppression overall at the sites at that peak of the intervention. We also looked at other outcomes like continuity care, and it is encouraging that also financial incentives were noted to increase the likelihood of patients to be maintained engaged in continuity care and actually to get follow-up viral load and CD4 cell counts during follow-up. So I think in sum what 065 attempted to do is to take prevention to research to a new level, and that is to focus on communities rather than individuals, and to attempt to do these large-scale interventions here. This is the largest financial incentive study that has been done in the US and probably one of the largest done anywhere. And to attempt to also try to derive the outcomes based at a population level, meaning using the surveillance system. We anticipate that in the future, as we try to make a dent in the epidemic, both domestically and internationally, that we're going to have to focus on these large-scale community-focused interventions, and we're going to have to find ways, simple ways to assess the outcomes, and I think the surveillance system offered us an opportunity to do so.